For more on this, we're now joined by Jacques Peacock, Public Relations and Legal Liaison for the National Council of SPCA, to join us for more on this discussion. Jacques, thank you so much for your time this evening here in SABC News. I mean, just looking at that story, many have described this as animal cruelty. And as the NSPCA, the National Council for the SPCA, what is your reaction to the livestock which is being loaded and transported all the way to Kuwait for a 3-week period?
Good evening, Mbali, and also good evening to your viewers. Thank you so much for having us. My first reaction would be that it is incredibly easy to put up a facade of the perfect picture. Many of the comments made in the previous story were made after the animals, the first load of animals were loaded, and they've been on the ship for an hour. There's an immense difference between 1 hour on the vessel with a few hundred animals versus more than 50,000 sheep, 1,500 cattle and 200 goats confined to the ship for a period of 3 weeks. So context and perspective is always important. The NSPCA is the only animal welfare organization in the country who inspected the feedlot in Berlin and the harbour and the ship in the East London harbour. Both inspections are conducted under warrant. We were taken to court by Al Mawashi, the exporting company, to interdict the NSPCA from screening the animals bound for the ship. That was done on an urgent basis, and they were unsuccessful in their application. The High Court affirmed the NSPCA's mandate to screen the animals. During the screening process, many animals, including pregnant, injured animals, many from reckless shearing with injuries that pose risk for secondary infections, animals that are simply unfit to go onto the vessel were removed, and including animals that have been observed with ORF, or contagious ecthyma, as it is known as well, which is a zoonotic disease, which means it is transmissible to humans too. And the NSPCA has confirmed that diagnosis through laboratory testing and visual examinations. So there is disease. Animals on the vessel is exposed to disease, and we could only remove the animals that were showing clinical signs at that stage. So that is why I'm saying that it's always important to get context and ensure that you aren't faced with a facade that someone is trying to put up to boost their own image.
And looking at the conditions that these animals will be traveling under, how sure are we that these conditions are safe for this livestock?
The conditions aren't safe. It is as simple as that. Many South Africans witnessed the horrors of the Al Kuwait vessel that docked in the Cape Town harbour after it needed to load feed, and that is the prime example of what these vessels look like mid-journey. The animals on those vessels were literally standing, sleeping in their own excrement and urine. There is a byproduct from that, which is ammonia, which is an incredibly strong smell. As I've said, the NSPCA has been active and had inspected the feedlot and the harbour since last week, Monday, continuously every single day to get through all the animals. I myself was on the vessel, and yesterday already in some of the decks that were loaded first, the ammonia smell is so strong that it feels as if your nose is burning. And if it feels like that for a human, you could just imagine what it feels like for the animal. Luckily, due to the NSPCA's diligent screening, many of the compromised animals have been prevented from going onto the shipment. From the estimated 58,000 sheep that Al Mawashi wanted to export, only around 51,482 sheep had gone onto the shipment. As I've indicated, all compromised animals, as far as possible, were already removed at the feedlot.
And Jacques, you speak a lot about animal waste. And that's something that's quite important because all sorts of diseases can come from that. Are we sure in terms of, with this ship traveling for 3 weeks, what will happen to that? And what will happen to the sea? Are we sure that the sea won't be polluted at the same time?
It is indeed a big concern. In terms of the Animals Protection Act, you cannot keep animals in dirty or unhygienic conditions. So it would be a contravention of the Animals Protection Act to do so if the South African laws had applied. The Almasila vessel is a 40-plus-year-old converted cargo vessel, which was refurbished to transport animals. It is fully enclosed, which means there aren't any windows. Some people have described it as a 5-star hotel for animals, which is just quite laughable. It is 100% reliant on mechanical ventilation. And in order to clean this vessel, it is estimated that the cleaning cycle to clean it once takes 48 hours. So by the time that you are finished cleaning, at the end of the 48 hours, the waste accumulated by the pens that you would have cleaned first would be so severe that you'd have to start cleaning immediately again. That is just not possible for these people because they do not have enough manpower. That takes away from the profit of this entire exercise. If I can just comment while on profit, with regards to the economic boost into the country, South Africa should realize that we really are the sloppy seconds. The exporters are only coming to South Africa because there is currently a seasonal ban on exporting from Australia, which they usually exported from. And the seasonal ban is due to the horrific conditions on the ship during the warm summer months, including heat stress. So it is not sustainable, and really only a handful of people benefit from this entire exercise. The NSPCA has been inspecting the vessel and the feedlot since the first consignment in 2019, where heavy emphasis was placed on the well-being of emerging farmers. From what we see at the feedlot of the animals that are there, the animals that came in, we have our serious doubts of who is actually benefiting from this operation.
And Jacques, talking about the impact and, this can have on the animals. I mean, you spoke a lot about heat stress as well. Do we know what sort of, a condition the animals will be subjected to and what it can do to harm them?
So there is incredible footage from a previous Australian shipment, and then as well as the footage from the Kuwait. So big concerns is the heat stress. As you can imagine, just the body heat radiated from 51,000 sheep and 1,000 more cattle and goats together is immense. That is not considering external conditions which could pump up the heat. As I've mentioned, it relies 100% on mechanical ventilation. There is no natural airflow coming through, so it gets incredibly hot. Then the excrement and urine, the smell and the byproduct ammonia that is produced therefrom is really, really a problem. It can cause serious damage and cause serious pain and suffering to the animals. There are further issues, for example, stocking density. How densely are the pens stocked? Are the animals able to move around, or are they crammed together so heavily that one can't get to food, for example? Another serious concern that we had is the ORF that was diagnosed. ORF is lesions that form around the mouths of sheep and goats, which may impact their feeding. They may lose condition, and it poses the risk of secondary infections. We have pooled all those, the NSPCA has pooled all those showing clinical signs, but it is transmissible between animals and to humans too. So the concern is the animals that were allowed on the ship that are not yet showing clinical signs. If they develop these painful lesions, they will not be able to eat. They will lose condition, and their fate is just tragic.
All right, Jacques, thank you so much for your time and that insight. That is Jacques Peacock. He is a public relations and legal liaison for the National Council of SPCA, just talking there about that livestock which will be making its way on a 3-week journey to Kuwait. We understand that's 56,000 sheep, 1,500 cattle and 2,000 goats.